Come on, Gloria Steinem. What you got to say? Let's hear it. Come on. Use your best logical argument. No emotions now. Yeah, I'm feeling salty today. I've got Henson fatigue. I'm growing impatient. I uh, I need a cave trip, like a really hard punishing cave trip, or a really hard punishing rock climb. I uh, I need I need I need my hair did, and like a week long pass at the day spa. You know, just to kind of get it all out, hang with the pink toenail polish crowd. That's what I need. Yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah, old Gloria Steinem once said, a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle. That was probably circa 1966. You know, she said that in, I don't recall what year it was. I think it was in the 90s. It might have been after 2000, but then she got married. So what happened right there? What is that? Yeah, back on the topic of the thing. This way, Arch. Um, I find it very interesting that people will go and get a lion's share of views on their channel talking about a topic that they have second or third or fourth hand knowledge of. Like if you're going and you're getting views, the majority of your views, and they're coming from recycling information that you've not gotten firsthand, that has no value. You can argue there's some value. I mean, don't get me wrong. There is some value in philosophy and arts of discussion and whatnot, but if you're going and attacking people who are sticking their neck out for getting involved, that doesn't have value. I mean, what is that? Like, is that some weird form of jealousy? Go get a march. And it's not a zero-sum game. Like, there's room for more down here. Like, come and do some reporting. Get your boots muddy. But if you're not willing to do that, shut it. There's a lot of risk in this. The most ignorant thing I think I ever heard was the implication that in some way, shape, or form, me and somebody else were in cahoots or whatever. Yeah, that dog won't hunt, sweetheart. And to quote Candace Bergen, why don't you go back to your double wide and fry something? By the way, Sweet Home Alabama, not a bad movie. So, I'm officially in the mood, and I don't care that much right now. So, y'all can go and complain if you want. I don't think most of you will. I think most of you will see me blowing off steam, and most of y'all probably agree anyway. And please don't misunderstand me. Obviously, I'm not anti-woman. God designed men and women, to go together. It's not a bad thing when it's done right. Seldom is, seems like anymore. But when I think of feminism, I think of something more towards the extreme. Not quite militant and so on. And I think for most people, it's just a phase. It's like an intellectual phase as they grow older and they eventually grow out of that type of thinking. Not unlike Gloria Steinem, apparently. A woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle, huh? So, if you disagree, come down here and do some actual reporting. Like, get out of the chair. Like, have you ever looked at somebody and, they just kind of got a sour face? Not necessarily all the time, but like they've just gotten bitter and they just tried to like harness that bitterness into like a photograph. And you're like, I don't want to be around that. Like, I don't find that attractive. You know what I'm saying? Here's something else that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with what I was just talking about. Guess we'll go this way. Like, create your own ideas. Don't ever repeat what you've been told in school. Dissect it, analyze it, chew on it, Work on it, intellectualize that. God gave us a brain for a reason. We are different from the animals in that we can reason, and we can create ideas. And it's an art form that has apparently been mostly lost and taught out of existence. Not out of existence, but out of existence for so many people, in our culture. Is it fair to say education's dying, or it died some time ago, relative to what it used to be? I can speak from experience. There was a time in my life when I was pretty void and vacuous. I didn't know what I didn't know, and I didn't create my own ideas, and I didn't realize there wasn't anything right with that. Okay, so when you're in that state, you end up having a tendency to relying on somebody else, whether it's the talk show host on, talk radio, or maybe it's like, your flavor of media analyst, whatever that looks like. Could be YouTube now, but don't fall into that hole. Think for yourself. And it's hard because when you don't have those pathways, wired in your head, and you don't know how to think for yourself, you're going to be thinking for somebody else, if that makes any sense. You're going to be, well, you're not thinking for somebody else, but you're letting them think for you, right? I've never said what I just said, and I'm speaking off the cuff. I know it's pretty basic, but it's an example of what I'm talking about. Just go and rationalize. Be a raconteur. Like I was saying earlier, if you're not coming up with your own ideas, and it's not that information is bad. Information's good, okay? But take the information in from other external sources, chew on it. See if there is maybe perhaps a trend of fear pushing behind what you're being told. A la, say, perhaps COVID. That was something else. Before COVID got here, I had been researching a little bit of my own about it and what was going on over in China. And I thought, wow, this is really serious. This is really bad. Like, if it gets here, there's going to be maybe millions die. And then it got here. And after about 2 weeks, I was like, this is not what they say it is. This is a political pandemic. This is a shift of power. I saw that. And I think eventually people saw it. But I think most people seem to deny it or just flush it down the memory hole. And they didn't want to revisit it. Maybe they were too, at a primal level, they were just too embarrassed to admit that they were wrong, or they were hoodwinked. Or maybe they got jabbed, against their will, so to speak, against their intellectual will, if nothing else. Maybe they regret that now. But they're too prideful, perhaps, to even admit that what they did was, well, they got hoodwinked. They got suckered. Oh boy. I'm tired. I'm cranky. I'm hungry. My feet hurt. I didn't get enough sleep last night. This day didn't go as I wanted. And I'm on my period. Because this is misogynistic. Being here and experiencing this right now, this is loserdom. This is don't do this. Don't follow your dreams. Don't follow your passions. Don't think outside the box. Just do what you're doing until it's too late, right? Something else. I'm not a tabloid, but if I were, you'd just be a wannabe. I'm in a mood, so hey, why not offend everybody? I'll just talk about politics. So, I've got this thing, and I used to be the worst. I used to be the guy that would go in all hook, line, and sinker for a candidate. But now, I don't have a problem with you voting. I don't have a problem with you voting for a candidate and, you supporting him or whatever. But don't get so invested into hating the other guy so much, the other opponent, that therefore somehow that makes you like your guy so much that you idolize him. That's what we're doing now. We're so manipulated. So, you know, you don't have my permission to do that. It's a free country. But yeah, don't be that automaton. Don't be that repeater. You know, think. Don't be so easily manipulated. You know, there's probably some party every year after inauguration day's over. There's probably some after party at the after party, the triple after party or whatever. And, you know, Donald Biden and Joe Trump and, you know, Ronald Bush and George Reagan, they all get together and probably do some evil things. And they laugh at us. These deer flies are awful. They probably all laugh at us because it's all a big joke. It probably has been, not quite since from the beginning, but maybe even before that. Don't put your faith in men, man. Don't get so sucked up into partisanship that you throw away your thinker, you know. Grab onto that logic and don't get emotionally compromised. Don't get emotionally involved to the point that you're hating your neighbor because they voted for the other guy. I mean, honestly, they're probably just as manipulated as you are. I think the most important commodity in America, it's a secret commodity. You know, this is like a philosophical thing. This is one of my ideas. But I think one of the most important things to the people who run America, and I'm not talking about the president, I'm not talking about the Senate, I'm talking about the powers behind the powers, you know, people who switch the gears and make things go, you know, like the people at the top of the pyramid, the people you don't really know about so much. You just see their underlings, like the presidents and, you know, the Vanderbilts or whatever it is, or the aristocrats or whatever it is. And some of them maybe at the very top. But like I was saying, the most important commodity in America is not, you know, oil or water or, you know, steel, gold, supercomputers. It's none of that. The most important commodity in America, perhaps, is division. If you can keep the people divided and distracted, you can get anything done. I'd like to see what was going on back in 1913 when they passed the Federal Reserve Act. Like, was there some big distraction going on besides, you know, the Christmas holiday? I think it happened pretty close to Christmas. Usually stuff like that is passed, like some big sweeping change is passed during a time of panic or fear, war, and so on. But I could be wrong, but I don't think anything was really happening at the time. They just got lucky. Like, I'd love to know more about that time period and what was going on and why people were so relaxed. Like, they didn't expect it to pass and it just fell through somehow.